Hello everyone! Today I'm going to demonstrate how to embroider a simple flower. I consider this a beginner project, but by beginner I mean perhaps you already have some experience with a needle and thread hand sewing, but you've never tried embroidery, or you've only done a few practices and you want to take it to the next level, but you still consider yourself a beginner. If you've never held a needle and thread and sewn anything, I think this might be a little bit more challenging, but still worth trying. This is a style that I would practice when I was first starting my journey with hand embroidery. I think when you're first starting out, it's nice to have a subject matter that has very distinct color differences. So a flower is great for that because it can be fairly basic, where there's like a center, the petals, a stem, and leaves. It's going to come out very groovy. This is the dress I'm going to be embroidering on. It's a secondhand denim dress that I got either on eBay or thredUP. Even though it's a modern dress, I think it references the 60s and 70s in its style, so it's perfect for a floral embroidery project. For drawing today, I'll be using a Molotow liquid chrome paint pen. It's extra fine tip. It is permanent though, so you have to be careful. And I'm going to start by drawing the center of the flower. It's just a basic circle, and then around that is going to be one more circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm going to draw the petals. I ended up drawing 6, and they're a bit short for a normal flower. Like daisies, I would draw the petals much longer, but you know, you can mess around with whatever style you want to do. We're going to do a simple stem, and then I'm going to draw some leaves coming off of the stem. I want it to have a bit of a cartoon look to it because it's going to be referencing the 60s. It's like a little mod flower. Okay, so now we can get our thread and needle. Again, I'm using my favorite 2-inch embroidery needle. For this one flower, you just need 4 different colors of thread. You need a color for the center, which I'm doing the dark purple, color around the center, which I'll do yellow. The petals are going to be white, and then the leaves and stem are going to be green. Usually I cut pretty long pieces of thread, but when I know it's just going to be a small portion, I feel like 10 inches is plenty. I'm going to slip a hoop into the dress so that just that portion with the flower is in between the layers. This is to keep it from puckering, and it makes it easier to hold while you're working. The pocket is kind of in an annoying place, but I ended up making it work. Okay, so I'm coming in from the back side of the fabric to make my first stitch. The thread is knotted, so it's not gonna slip through the fabric. This kind of stitch is called a satin stitch, I believe. When I was learning embroidery, I didn't particularly follow any kind of book, I just went for it. So I don't know how technical it is, but the idea is that you're making short, flat stitches that come together to create a shape. Having a border around the center of the flower is a great way to practice stitching in a curve. It's still that same flat satin stitch, but instead of a straight line that kind of tapers, I'm going to be arcing around the circle that we drew, like a little donut shape. Sometimes I switch direction when I'm stitching, like I'm going clockwise and now I'm going counterclockwise, filling in the gaps. Okay, it's time to start stitching the petals. I'm using white thread, and because there's more ground to cover, I'm going to be using thread that has been cut at a longer length. Instead of like 10 inches, I think I go for like 20 to 30 max. The only thing is that if you're a beginner embroiderer or stitcher, it tangles easier the longer the thread is. So like you kind of have to weigh what is more annoying to you. If cutting and tying off thread is more annoying than having it tangle regularly, then I would cut longer pieces. But if you feel like the tangling is driving you crazy, then cut shorter pieces of thread. I decided to go in and add a little bit of width to that top leaf because it was very narrow, and I think it's easier to stitch if it's got some more substance to it. I'm using a bright green thread to stitch it and cutting a fairly long piece because we've got 3 leaves and a stem. The leaves are also going to be a satin stitch, but this time they're going on a diagonal, so the 2 sides of the leaf are going to come together as like a V shape or like a chevron almost, but I'm doing each portion separately, so it's like both portions are on a diagonal just in the opposite direction. I think it makes the most sense just to visually see it, so it'll make more sense when we get to the other side of the leaf. Because of the diagonal stitch, it naturally creates a line down the center of the leaf where the 2 embroidery parts meet. I really like this. I think it kind of looks somewhat like a real leaf. And I'm planning on doing the 2 other leaves in the same style. I'm not sure what kind of stitch you would call the style of how I do the stem, but it's very short stitches that are also on an angle, just basically covering up the drawing that I made of that little narrow line. This is the last leaf for this little flower project. My thought though was, as I finish this, when I think about when I started embroidering, the way that I would practice would often be simple motifs like this that I would do over and over again. For me, repetition is the best form of practice, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep repeating this flower. As I added more of these, I decided to change up the color, and I also changed the scale of them. Some were a bit larger and some I did a bit smaller. Alright guys, well that's the end of this project. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope it inspires you in some way, whether it's to embroider a simple flower or upcycle a garment. Perhaps you want to subscribe to my channel. I will continue to make more content in the realm of DIY and embroidery. Yeah, or leave me a comment below. If you want to check out my shop, it's tessaperlo.com, and my Instagram's also tessaperlo. Yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. All right, bye.